Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a great day. I'm going to do something that I did a few days ago that didn't seem to go over too well, but I'm going to keep trying a couple times and see if maybe you'll warm up to it. I've got a few different websites here about Stellar Blade's censorship-less release, and I kind of wanted to go through them and discuss the story that they tell. So what we got here, this is The Gamer. Stellar Blade's uncensored release shouldn't be a cause for celebration. Now, what they basically say here, I mean, I can't go through and just read the whole thing, but I don't know that we entirely need to do that. Stellar Blade's been put up for release, launching uncensored across all territories. They say putting to rest non-existent fears the game will be nipped and tucked in the name of censorship. I don't know why they think those are non-existent fears, because there's been a lot of censorship in everything, but let's continue and see if they explain themselves. It says it's a complicated relationship. To understand it, we need to look at the relationship between censorship and video games and how their experiences often change depending on when or where we have them. Japan is known for scaling down the difficulty of certain games so that global audiences aren't turned off. That is not a censorship choice, however. That is a developer choice. Unless I'm wrong, which I don't think I am. I don't believe the censors choose to scale down games. The censorship boards are to decide if the content of the game is fit for the populace. Continues, while it will often be less willing to depict graphic or bloody violence in ways that Western audiences embrace. It's rarely about companies trying to stifle our creative expression or free speech. Normally, it's just rating board stuff and wanting to sell more copies based on spreadsheet data. Rating board stuff is separate from selling more copies based on spreadsheet data. A lot of companies out there know sex sells, and they will not include the sex, not because they don't think it sells, but because of rating board stuff. The ratings boards will often make it harder to sell a game based on the rating, as opposed to the fact of what the spreadsheet data tells them. They might connect to some degree, but they are not, in fact, completely interconnected. To celebrate that something is released uncensored is to imply that there was something worthy of censorship in the first place. Well, let's talk about all the times violence has been censored, that things have been well, you know what? Hold on. And when it comes to Stellar Blade, I'm unsure exactly where that assumption is coming from. They're unsure where that assumption's coming from. Okay. The game is already blatant in showing off Eve's body, while the violence in the trailers and demos seem no worse than the most of the AAA games we play these days. It's grotesque and unique, but so is Resident Evil. I wouldn't really call Resident Evil grotesque, but okay. Goes on to say that they're not sure where the censorship might take place. The fact that it trended, well, I mean, as many people as out there were very upset about the sexual nature of Eve, why wouldn't people be surprised that it's not going to be censored? There are so many people pushing back on her without knowing anything. But okay. This next part is right. The official social media also leaned into this news as a form of marketing. I mean, of course they did. Of course they did. Why wouldn't they? Leaning into this kind of marketing is constant. Now, it doesn't matter if they're rage farming in terms of saying, oh, we have this XYZ character and that XYZ character really wasn't anything. Or if they're saying we have this hugely sexual person we're putting in the forefront of our game, or whatever it is. It's all a form of marketing to be leaned into. I do wish most of us would stop letting them bait us with the rage marketing as much, but I think we are improving slowly but surely. Things are getting better in that regard. Then they talk about Nintendo's censorship of Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE, which I don't know anything about this one. Some cut scenes were censored and they reduced a bunch of cleavage. So I guess, I don't know. Why did you feel the need to tell people this? YouTube channels like Censored Gaming frequently talk about how localizers or translators are looking to change or westernize Japanese games, and here they go off on apparently localization, which they have some points, but they have bad points too. Yes, there are some things that are hard to take directly from one language and put them into a new language, but at the same time, trying to change them so that you have something that makes perfect sense in the Western world versus what you have in the Eastern world isn't what people want. They don't want you to westernize it. They want you to westernize it enough that they can understand what they're saying. They don't want you to change everything and replace sushi with hamburgers. Let's put it that way. They don't want you to take takoyaki and then give them meatballs. They're both round and have meat involved, but they're both entirely different dishes. And most people, when playing these games, would much rather hear, oh, what is takoyaki? Research it and then think, I would like to try that. That is part of how we experience other cultures through art. And it is an important thing that art provides to us. A context and an idea of other things in a much more fun setting gives us a way to experience cultures in a way we can't normally. That's part of why gamers aren't as bad as they try to make us out to be. We want the original experience. We want to know what's going on as it is, as opposed to trying to tell us what it would be like here. We already know what it's like here. We don't want to know what it's like here. We know these things about here. We don't want that. We want to know about that. About what's going on over there. About what they're doing that's different. About what they're doing that's interesting. It's like going on a vacation and sticking to the tourist places. That's boring as fuck. You go and you find the safe places for tourists to go that aren't necessarily tourist places, but at the same time give you a more authentic experience of what the locals do and live, because that is how you grow as a person. Well, I mean, granted, most of us aren't doing it to grow as people. Most of us are doing it for fun. It just also happens to help us grow as people. We get two things for one thing. Oh, sorry, I went on a tangent there. But okay, so that's what that is. But their overall point is that they don't think that there is any reason people should have at all been concerned that it would have been uncensored. And they say, until you show me exactly what was on the chopping block to begin with, this proclamation means nothing. If anything, it does more harm than good. Sony has a tendency to censor all sorts of things. The game that I wanted to play so bad, but my laptop wouldn't let me because it kept dying to a memory issue. Martha is Dead was censored because it was too gruesome for people to play or some shit. It does matter. It's easy to see where they might censor things. This article is our starting point. This is the article where I feel the writer is more interested in their agenda than they are in what players think. In this case, yes, Jade King, I feel like you're more interested in your agenda than what actual gamers think. Here we have Paul Tassi for Forbes. This says, Stellar Blade says it will release uncensored in all regions. So what does that mean? Stellar Blade always seems to enjoy employing its controversy-based marketing strategy wherever it can. Notice they'll call Stellar Blade out for this, but they won't call other games out for it. There are so many games out there that release antagonistic to gamers with the way they seem to think that they can get more gamers into gaming if they try to advertise themselves to people who don't already game, and that doesn't work. Moving on. Yet they probably declare it'll release uncensored, which is a surprise to some. Uncensored in this context will no doubt have some players thinking about the provocative Eve outfits. Also has to do with the potential violence and gore, as the demo revealed some items like cross-section severed limbs, which also apparently do not have to be censored in any way, even in Japan. Which is funny, because Japan can be prickly. Now, here's where I think they do segue into something interesting. This has brought up an older example of Dead Space, where Electronic Arts Japan GM Sean Noguchi wondered out loud what the difference between Stellar Blade's violence and their own violence was when they were rejected for a rating in Japan. What is going on, Sero, which is Japan's rating organization? The Stellar Blade demo was really fun and absolutely action-packed. However, Sero, you denied our Dead Space a rating because it included cross-sections of severed body parts and internal organs. But here we have both cross-sections and insides on display, passed off with a Sero D rating. I find this hard to accept. Understandable. I'm wondering about the volume of violence here, as it seems like Dead Space score was much more pervasive and intense in general compared to what we see in Stellar Blade. But no further explanation has been given by the ratings board, and there have been previous complaints about ratings being ambiguous. And this is part of the problem with ratings boards, government-run boards in that regard. Ambiguity in rules lead to inconsistency in results. I don't have a problem necessarily with ratings boards. I do think it is nice for consumers to have an idea of what they're looking at. But I lean more towards the open table or Amazon reviews, where someone plays it and tells other people what they thought and how they experienced it. And then people organically come up with an idea of how to rate something. So they get to decide what the rating is. And other people can read those examples and decide, is this good or bad for me? Will this work? You can read through a bunch of examples. And if you choose not to do your research, that is on you. And it should remain on you. The government should not be telling you, okay, sorry, different tangent. Back to video games. Meanwhile, in the US, we really do not censor violence at all at this point, and short of like actual pornography, nothing is getting rejected for sexy outfits. An AO rating for Stellar Blade, something that would effectively killed it, never seemed like it was anywhere close to being in the cards. In fairness, there is a really strict definition for that AO rating. As far as I am aware, there are no sexual acts in Stellar Blade, and just being naked isn't sexual in and of itself. It's true. There is a difference between showing something for beauty and showing something for sex. Now, that doesn't mean that when you're showing it for beauty, other people won't find it sexual. But at the same time, that just because other people find it sexual doesn't mean it is sexual. But that's a whole other issue we could get into. He has finished his review copy of Stellar Blade and has more to say, but he has to wait for the embargo. So prepared for uncensored Stellar Blade like it's a 2003 DVD of American Pie. I don't get that reference. I watched American Pie. He wouldn't expect anything too wild, despite being used as a marketing tactic. Go back to where there was a point. So in the Gamers article, you had them talking about how there was no way there was anything to be censored. Why would anybody censor this? There's nothing in here that would be censored. These people are being silly. But at the same time, you literally have another game designer who was refused a rating because of something that they consider equal to what's in this game in terms of violence. Dead Space, as far as I know, doesn't have any hot women in skin suits in it. I didn't get that far in the game. I don't like the controls, but again, different subject. So when it comes to that kind of thing, when it comes to the lack of consistency, the lack of surety that not just developers but gamers have in determining whether or not something will be rated or something will be allowed to be rated, something that will even be allowed to be released, or if it's going to end up censored. We don't have any really strong gauge on that. It can be far too inconsistent. All right, so we're going to go to our next article. All right, so pivoting into the rating board issue, we are on PlayStationLifestyle.net. We are going to read this article by Zarmina Khan. Japanese rating board criticized for passing Stellar Blade but banning Dead Space Remake. Shift Up's recent statement regarding Stellar Blade's censorship status has drawn the ire of Dead Space Remake's Japan team. Shift Up confirmed that its PS5 exclusive will not be censored in any region, including Japan, puzzling Electronic Arts Japan's general manager Sean Noguchi. Dead Space Remake was banned by Japanese rating board Sero. Stellar Blade censorship update draws attention to Japanese rating board's vagueness, says EA. As spotted and translated by Automaton, Noguchi took to X to point out that part of the reason Dead Space was denied a rating in Japan was its depiction of severed body parts and internal organs. However, Stellar Blade includes the same content and received a Sero D rating, which is ages 17 and up. On the other hand, Dead Space wasn't even awarded a Sero Z rating, 18 and up, and the game was outright banned. In a follow-up tweet, Noguchi stressed that he is by no means criticizing Stellar Blade or taking a swing at its devs. He added that he personally enjoyed the demo and encourages his followers to buy the full game. Noguchi added that he is very vexed by the vagueness of Sero's review process. Once again, we're back to how can the gamer not think that people would be concerned about censorship or banning or anything like that. It's very obvious that it happens often. We've got another article to look at, though. And this is Sports Skeeda. This says EA exec criticizes Japanese rating board after Stellar Blade goes uncensored. And most of this we've already covered in the previous article. Gaming fans are happy that it'll be uncensored. Japan, an EA executive has questioned the decision. I don't like this sentence because the EA exec didn't call out Stellar Blade. They called out Sero. This is that tweet we couldn't see interpreted in the PlayStation Life. Noguchi does go on to say, just to avoid any misunderstandings, I would like to add one thing. I have no ill will towards Stellar Blade itself. In fact, it was fun, so you should buy it. This is purely a complaint about the vagueness of the review process in Japan, but there are plenty of examples of the same vagueness that is rampant in the review process for other titles. And he's not wrong, which is, again, to reference the gamer, since they don't seem to think that there's any reason people would be concerned, why people were concerned. There is vagueness, there are irregularities, there are times people don't know why things were censored. And then one last article. This is the website called 80.lv. I think it means 80 level. I would have to look further to really determine that. But I'm here for the article, goddammit. Thank you for writing it, Terry. I appreciate it. This is Shift Up is releasing Stellar Blade without any censorship. And again, behind the highly anticipated action-adventure, took to Twitter and stated the game will not be censored in any country, including Japan, where explicit content often faces restrictions. So it'll be the same in every country. This comment from the team may have been prompted by the brutal enemy finishes and at least one costume for the main character that appears revealing. Didn't somebody have a question about what people was we're going to think would be censored in Stellar Blade? I guess we have the answer to that question. Speaking of the game release, Stellar Blade will be exclusively available on PS5, launching on April 26th. As of now, there's no information yet on releases for other platforms. After the release of the Stellar Blade demo, which recently managed to gather around 690,000 daily active users, it sparked a minor scandal. An IGN French reviewer criticized the design of Eve, stating that the designer had never seen a woman and expressing disapproval of the character's design. Representatives from the publication have already apologized to the game creators, considering she was modeled literally after a human woman. Go figure. While other game developers like Yoko Taro, the director behind the Nier series, says the game is amazing and better than Nier Automata. Check out VGC's article and join our 80-level talent platform. Okay, no, I'm sorry, that's just their advertisement. I'll leave it up on the screen so you can read it if you want to. Then you can go do these things. I will have a link to these articles in the description just so you can check them out if you want to. So here we go. We have gone the full gamut of people wondering why you might possibly want to censor something, all the way to the answer of why somebody might want to censor it. And realistically, it didn't take that much thought, did it? The fact that I can find any kind of honest reporting on this makes my heart feel good. You still can't entirely trust anybody out there. I mean, before I say you should absolutely go out and subscribe or whatever World at 80 level wants you to do, I would recommend vetting them more. And honestly, I would recommend taking it on a case-by-case basis, because each article, each time it's written by somebody else, is going to be something different. And not everybody's point of view is going to jive with you. Stellar Blade releases on Friday. I know a lot of people are excited. I may play it eventually. Maybe. There's so many games I need to play. So let's talk about it down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.